Well, good morning to you. It's Wednesday, the 25th of September 2024. There's a thing. And the weather, well, let's say it's a sort of indoor day. We won't be doing much experimental gardening today. This little bed here is an experiment. I had a long chat with my seed and plant and agricultural expert friends, and we were discussing whether you can plant onion seed straight into the garden at this time of year, and opinion was, shall we say, divided. So this small bed has got 3 rows of onion seed growing, or maybe growing, maybe not growing. We shall see what happens there. But all the things I should be doing, which involve mixing concrete and render and doing outdoor stuff, ain't going to happen today. You know, it's starting to drizzle again. So I was working up a list of what I could be doing, and I was thinking a little bit about my parents. Right, we'll just change location because the drizzle has gone from very, very light to slightly heavier. Yes, my parents. Why would I think about them today? Well, today is my mother's birthday. If she were still alive, she would be 97. Yeah. And I was thinking about my father. I was thinking a little bit about his military service. Yeah. My father was too young to do any military service during World War II. But that didn't stop the British government from dragging him into the Royal Air Force and sending him out to the Middle East, where he was attached to a fighter squadron. That sounds exotic, doesn't it? My father was a member of a fighter squadron. Yeah. Well, always remember that for every fighter pilot there's lots and lots and lots of other guys who do other things. He was actually an instrument repairer, which was a pretty redundant trade when he was serving, because the war had finished and there were mountains of instruments, brand new ones still in the box. There were mountains of instruments in aircraft that were being taken apart. So he didn't do any instrument repair, although he did do a fair amount of instrument change. You know, an aircraft would have a problem with the temperature gauge, and he would get the job of changing it over. Anyway, he was in an area where there was real fighting going on, and it wasn't a war. It was one of those so-called policing actions, you know, where military forces shoot at each other, but it's not a war. So there were no medals involved. And he was in places where some of the bullets were coming in his general direction. Now, as a child, of course, I wanted him to tell war stories. You know, what was it like to be shot at? What was it like to shoot at people? I don't actually think he ever shot at people. You know, like all servicemen, they went on the range and they fired a certain amount of bullets just to make sure that they could if they needed to. But what did he do that was incredibly brave? And of all of the stories that my father told, the real horror story for him was those days when he would be allocated to help in the cookhouse. And he wasn't a cook, of course. No, he was an instrument repairer. So one of the jobs that he would end up doing was cleaning the grease traps. Yeah, well, that was interesting, wasn't it? And the cookhouse, where they did the washing up, they had outside the cookhouse, between the drain proper and the sinks they washed up in, they had these corrugated grease traps that periodically had to be cleaned. And who better to clean a grease trap than an instrument repairer? And the way my father described this particular job, this was the worst thing that you could possibly do in the British military in 1949. You know, never mind all that tank driving and firing shells and rescuing people who'd been hit by shells that had been fired and all that sort of thing. No. You know, hardly a mention of aerial combat or, you know, the way that the Israelis actually shot down an aircraft from my father's squadron. No great mention of that, no. The true horror story of war is cleaning grease traps. And looking around the things I need to do today, I've just looked at my grease trap and it needs cleaning. So those of you that do, pray for me as I contemplate the most courageous thing my father ever did in the military, and maybe roll up my sleeves and do it myself.